UFC Fight Night London, Brady versus Edwards. Quick picks, quick predictions. You already know, boys. I'm pretty hyped for this card, honestly. I think this is a great fight night in London. Not worth the ticket prices. Really bad ticket prices for, the people in the UK. It's rough, but we are going to break down the entire card. My quick picks, my quick predictions. Let's get into it, boys. Before we go ahead and get into it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's start it off with the first fight of the night of Guram Kutateladze versus Cal Fernandez. This is a recent addition to this card, short notice fight edition. I think it was added about a week ago. So both these guys are coming in on short notice. Cal Fernandez was supposed to be fighting, I believe 2 cards ago. He's supposed to be fighting. That fight got canceled. He's now fighting Guram Kutateladze, who is coming off of that win over Jordan Vucenic, who is also on this card. But this fight is a pretty good fight at lightweight. This is a good fight to open up the card to, get this card started. I think it's not a bad one. The hype on Guram a couple years ago was out of this world, man. The hype on Guram was insane. Okay, this guy was seen as the next lightweight contender, the next prospect to be in their lightweight rankings. This guy was people already considered this guy to be, fighting the top 10 soon. And then he got beat down by Elvis Brenner. He lost a split decision. And yeah, we're here with Guram. He's coming off that split win. Was it? I believe it was a split win over Jordan Vucenic, who's coming in on a short notice. All right. So Guram Kutateladze has let down, most of his fans, most of the people who believed that he was going to be a high prospect. He's now fighting Cal Fernandez, who is not a bad fighter himself, decently well-rounded, not bad Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His finishing capabilities are okay, but Guram is by far the better striker in this matchup. For sure, he's going to be the better striker. But it's tough to trust Guram after his past few fights. Even his fight with Jordan Vucenic, who was coming in on a short notice, it was such a close fight. It was a back and forth fight. Jordan just gassed out a little bit because he was coming in on a few days' notice, or I believe a week notice. Didn't have a full training camp to get that cardio going, and Guram was able to take over in the later rounds. But he's fighting Cal Fernandez. Both these guys are coming in on short notice. I am going to trust Guram Kutateladze to get this one done. He trains with Hamzat Chimaev. He trains with a good gym. He is still a high-level fighter. I just don't see him being one of those top 15 guys ever in his career, honestly. Guram was super hyped up, but I think he's just going to be a mid-level guy. But I think he beats a guy in Cal Fernandez who doesn't really have that great of a finishing capability. He is going to be smaller than Guram as well. I think Guram's going to push the pace, keep his tight guard, land the better strikes on Cal, and be able to get this decision. So I'm going to go Guram Kutateladze by unanimous decision. We move on. Nathan Fletcher. What am I saying? I was about to say Nathaniel. Nathan Fletcher versus Cowlin Lauren. I'm going Nathan Fletcher without a doubt, man. Cowlin lost his last fight. Fought a guy on short notice. And it was a disappointment. It was honestly a disappointment. Cowlin is kind of like a little bowling ball, but he doesn't have the power and the finishing capabilities that I believe Nathan Fletcher has. Nathan Fletcher has a great ground game. His striking is elite as well. And I think he's going to be able to outpoint and outclass Cowlin throughout this fight relatively easily. I don't think it's going to be a very competitive fight. I mean, it may be a bit back and forth, but I am going to side with Nathan Fletcher to just outstrike and outpoint Cowlin throughout this fight, who struggles to get his hands going really. He's got a decent wrestling base, but Nathan Fletcher is going to have a great submission game when it comes to going to the ground if Lauren wants to take it to the ground. So I'm going to go Nathan Fletcher by decision. We move on. Shauna, what? I can't even say her name. Shauna Bannon versus Pooja Tomar, man. I don't care about this fight. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I do not care about this fight, but I'm going Pooja Tomar. Okay. Shannon Bannon. Is it Shauna Bannon? Shauna Bannon, man. She just doesn't have a single bad bone in her body. She doesn't seem like she can inflict damage. I genuinely feel like Pooja is gonna be able to get this one kind of going. She's going to be the one pushing the pace. I think she's going to be the one throwing the more shots, and she's going to be the one initiating when going head to head. Shauna doesn't really have that power or any sort of force to go ahead or pressure to go ahead. I think Pooja's just going to out pressure Bannon throughout the 15 minutes, but I think this will be a close one. I think it could be a split decision, and I'm going to side with Pooja Tomar to get this one done. Her record is not great. India does not have a great background with fighters. Let's be honest. We're not even gonna talk about their other Indian prospect. The Khabib of India. We're not even gonna talk about him. But I am gonna side with India here. Okay, she is gonna get this one done, I think. It's gonna be close though, but I don't trust Shauna in any way. She just doesn't show any sort of possible physicality that you want to see in women's MMA. In women's MMA, the problem is they don't want to push forward. It just whichever woman is the one pressuring forward, whichever woman is the one pushing forward is going to be the one that wins. And I think Puja Tomar is going to be the one to do that. So I'm going to go Puja Tomar by decision. We move on. Christian Leroy Duncan versus Andre Pulyayev. Pulyayev. Pulyayev, man, he's not bad. He's not bad. I looked at his record. I watched a little bit of tape. He's not bad, but he's fought bad competition. Not very experienced. And Christian Leroy Duncan is quite experienced. He has been in the UFC for a while. He's lost to a couple guys. He lost his last fight to uh I believe it was Rodriguez. Yeah, I believe it was RoboCop. He lost to RoboCop in his last fight. It was a close fight too. Didn't get finished by RoboCop, which most guys do. And he's very durable. Got great karate stance. Yeah, well, he's got a karate stance. He's got great striking. He's got the kind of the karate stance, bounces around a little bit. Throws very nice kicks, and I think he's going to outpoint Andre Pulyayev, and I think he's going to gas out. I think Pulyayev's going to gas out. Honestly, I think Christian Leroy Duncan is just going to be the one pushing the pace and be the one landing the better shot. So I'm going to go Christian Leroy Duncan. I think he could find a finish. Honestly, I'm going to go Christian Leroy Duncan by second or third round TKO. We move on. Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin, boys. This is a big one. Porky Parkin versus Tybura. Okay, this is the heavyweight matchup that we need to see. If Mick Parkin can pass through Marcin Tybura, he's got a solid chance of being in that top 10, and he's got a solid chance at becoming a good heavyweight prospect. But he is 10-0. He's fighting Marcin Tybura. Tybura is literally, this is the guy. This is like the barrier of like, do you deserve to be in the heavyweight rankings? Do you deserve to be in the top 10? It's gonna be close. I think right now Marcin Tybura is opening up as a favorite. I understand why. He's coming off that win over Jonata Deniz. Completely fraud checked Jonata Deniz. Ground and pounded him. Absolutely bloodied his face. Jonata Deniz's face was cut up brutally, and Marcin Tybura got a nice finish. You don't see him get knockouts very often, and he finished a huge prospect in Jonata Deniz. And now he's against Mick Parkin. And Mick Parkin, I think, is more well-rounded than Jonata Deniz. I think his striking's better. I think he'll be able to wrestle with Tybura. I don't think he's going to be stuck on bottom position. That's really the defining factor, because Tybura will shoot that takedown. It's not even a matter of when. It's just how is he going to shoot that takedown. You know what I mean? Because Tybura, he'll shoot a double leg, he'll shoot a single leg. He'll pick you up, he'll drop you down, and once you're on bottom position as a heavyweight, it's really tough to get up. So if Mick Parkin can get up, get back to his feet, or cause a scramble, he'll have a solid chance to win this fight. But I'm not sure if he can do that. So I am going to go Marcin Tybura. By potentially submission or decision. I'm going to lean decision, like a boring decision by Tybura, but it just depends. I hope Mick Parkin can get off bottom position. I hope he can keep this one standing, and if he can, he will destroy Marcin Tybura on the feet. I believe his striking's levels above, but Marcin Tybura's ground game is very good. So I'm going to go Marcin Tybura by decision. We move on. Launer Kavanagh versus Felipe Dos Santos. This is a good fight. I really like Launer Kavanagh as a prospect. I think he's a really fun flyweight prospect, and he's fighting Felipe Dos Santos, who's a good flyweight fighter as well. I believe he's coming off that loss, and he lost to Manel Cap. I think that's one of his losses to Manel Cap. Launer Kavanagh, he's very good. He's very good. He's coming off that decision win in Macau. Nice unanimous decision to start off his career. He was very good prospect even before getting to the UFC. He was getting knockouts at flyweight. He's got some decent power. His striking is very well rounded. His scrambles are good. And I think he's going to be able to outpoint and outpiece Felipe Dos Santos throughout this fight. Felipe Dos Santos has a good ground game. He's going to have a bit of a height advantage on Launer, but Launer's striking is going to be so much better than Felipe Dos Santos. Dos Santos is not a bad striker, but he does leave a lot of openings. I think Launer's going to be able to capitalize on that. His hands are very good. His boxing is very crisp. So I'm going to go Launer Kavanagh by decision or by TKO, man. I think he could find a finish in this fight. Just beat a Brazilian. I think he's going to go back-to-back beating Brazilians, man. Launer Kavanagh gets it done. We move on. Jai Herbert versus Chris Padilla to end the prelims. This is a good fight. I like this fight. Chris Padilla is coming off that win over Rolando Bedoya, and Chris Padilla is Jai Herbert's coming off that win over Rolando Bedoya, and Chris Padilla is coming off that win over Rong Zhu in the Apex. That was a beautiful win. Destroyed Rong Zhu, and he was a huge underdog. Jai Herbert, he's had his ups and downs in his career. Almost knocked out Taporia, but then got put in the highlight reel. So, that was a rough one for Jai Herbert, but he is still decent at lightweight. He is still decently well-rounded, but he doesn't have very good finishing capabilities. Chris Padilla, man, you look at his record, you're like, this guy isn't the best, but he is very good, and he is very good in the UFC. He's very well-rounded. He's got a submission in the UFC, and he's just coming off that knockout win in the UFC. Almost destroyed Rong Zhu's freaking orbital. I thought his orbital cracked. I thought Chris Padilla, it was a spinning back elbow. I thought he cracked. Oh no, I think it was just an elbow, like a just elbow straight in. I thought Chris Padilla cracked Rong Zhu's orbital. It looked awful. It looked awful. Rong Zhu couldn't see. I thought he was going to retire. Chris Padilla is an absolute dog. His finishing capabilities are great. He is going to be way shorter than Jai Herbert. By a few inches, he's going to be shorter, right? So that will play a factor. But I think Chris Padilla, once he gets in close on Jai Herbert, lands shots to the body, he mixes it up very well. And if he gets a takedown on Jai Herbert, he could find that submission. So I'm going to go Chris Padilla by submission or by TKO. I think he ends this fight. I think he finishes Jai Herbert, not with relative ease. I think it's going to be close. I think he'll finish him in late round 2, early round 3. But I'm going to go Chris Padilla. I'm going to trust Chris Padilla to get this one done, man. I think he's a dog, and I think he's a decent prospect. I think he's in his 30s, but he's still a good prospect, man. Chris Padilla is dangerous. I think he finishes Jai Herbert in this fight. We move on to the main card. Opening up the main card, we got Nathaniel Wood versus Morgan Charrier. Not a bad fight. Very good matchmaking with this one. Nathaniel Wood, he's a very well-rounded fighter. Good striking coming off that decision win. And Morgan Charrier is coming off that knockout win in France. Morgan Charrier, people look at his record as well, and they're just like, what is that? But in the UFC, he's won 2 out of his 3 fights. And his only loss is to Chepe Mariscal, who we've seen as a huge prospect. That was by split decision. Morgan Charrier is dangerous. He's got good hands. He's got very good hands, and his ground game is elite. I think he's more well-rounded than Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood just has pillow hands, man. I'm sorry to say it, but some of these guys, when you have pillow hands, you have to have elite striking and elite defense. And I don't think Nathaniel Wood is going to be able to defend against Charrier's ground game and his striking. I think Charrier is going to crack him at one moment in the fight and finish Nathaniel Wood. So I'm going to go Morgan Charrier by TKO in this fight in late round 2, late round 3. Round 2, round 3, I think is when he gets it done. This is going to be a competitive fight, though. Nathaniel Wood is no joke. He is very good, but I think Morgan Charrier is honestly very, very well-rounded, and he's got power as well. So Morgan Charrier gets it done, man. We move on. Jordan Vucenic versus Chris Duncan, man. This is an interesting fight. This is a very well-rounded fight for these guys. This is a good matchmaking as well. Jordan Vucenic is coming off that loss to Guram Kutateladze on short notice, but it was very competitive, man. I think Jordan Vucenic's going to bring it in this fight. He's going to absolutely bring it, and he's going to have a chance to get in the win column in the UFC. And Chris Duncan as well, coming off that submission win over, what's his name? Oki? Yeah, Balaji Oki. Nice submission win. Nice guillotine, as an underdog to open up that main card, or open up the prelims of that card. And Chris Duncan's good. He's very good on the ground. He's elite on the feet as well. His striking is definitely going to be a bit lacking against Jordan Vucenic, but his ground game is better, I believe, than Vucenic. But it really depends if Vucenic can keep this one on the feet, which I do believe he can. I think these guys, both same height, they're both kind of the same build, and I do believe Jordan Vucenic will be landing the better strike. So I'm gonna go Jordan Vucenic by TKO. I think he's going to prove that he deserves a spot in the UFC. That short notice fight against Kutateladze, that was just to show that he can do it. And I think in this fight, with a full camp, I think he's going to be able to prove that his cardio is there, his power is there, and he's ready to come and finish fights in the UFC. I think he's going to get it done against Chris Duncan, who, has been knocked out before. So I'm going to go Jordan Vucenic by KO. I'm going to say round 2 KO, man. We move on. We move on. Molly McCann versus Estela Nunes. This fight was canceled. Molly McCann is going to be fighting another woman. I forget her name right now. But she is 11-1. Sorry, not 14-1. 11-1. Just coming off of a Dana White Contender Series win. She's got great submission game. She's got, a pretty good finishing capabilities, and she's fighting Molly McCann, who has been submitted quite a couple times recently, man. I do hope that Molly gets it done, but she is aging. She's 35 years old, and she struggled recently. If this was 2022 Molly McCann, I would pick her. But just recently, I'm sorry, Patty Pimblett. I'm sorry, Molly McCann, but I gotta side with the other woman. I forget her name right now. I hate that the UFC doesn't update these things right away, but she is good. She's a good prospect. Just coming off that win over Dana White on Dana White Contender Series, which was a pretty solid win. And she's got a really good submission game. More than 50% of her wins are by submission. So I'm gonna go with her to get the submission over Molly McCann. I think if she takes her down, she's just gonna be able to finish her on the ground. Molly was on bottom position a lot when she fought the fighting nerd girl. And Molly just struggles to get back up. The meatball she struggles to get back up, man. And I think if she's on the ground with a girl with such high level BJJ, she's gonna struggle. She's gonna get submitted. She puts herself in bad positions at times. So I'm gonna go with the other girl to get a submission over Molly McCann, man. We move on though to the feature fight: Gunnar Nelson versus Kevin Holland. We're seeing Gunnar Nelson come back, man. He's making a little comeback. He is aging. He's fighting Kevin Holland, man. Kevin Holland fights every other week. He fights every couple months, man. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. And Kevin Holland needs this win. He needs this win. He's fighting Gunnar Nelson. Okay? And Gunnar Nelson is aging. He's nearing his 40s. He hasn't fought in a minute, but his ground game is really good. This is such a tough one for me because thankfully it's at welterweight. Kevin Holland is not fighting at 185. Thank God, man. He needs to stop fighting Rainer de Ritter, Roman Dolidze. Like, these are fights that, at 185, Kevin Holland's not big enough. He's just not big enough. It's just a fact of the matter, man. He's not big enough to compete with those guys. But he's moving down. He's fighting Gunnar Nelson. This is not a bad matchup for Kevin Holland. The only thing that scares me is the submission game of Gunnar Nelson. I believe more than 70% of his wins are by submission. Gunnar Nelson's a great BJJ. His submission game is his bag is insane, okay? But Kevin Holland at 170 is definitely a force. I think he's still good. Even though he's coming off of back-to-back finish losses. He cracked his rib against Roman Dolidze. That was an injury. That was not his fault. And then he got submitted by Rainer de Ritter, who is a great submission artist. He literally submitted GM3, okay? Yeah, that's all you got to know, okay? He submitted Kevin Holland in round 1. It was not a good look for Kevin Holland. I would have loved to see Holland take some time off, kind of recover himself and feel better, but he's back, of course. He's back, man. Of course he's back. He just can't not fight. But I think Kevin Holland is going to get this win. I think he will finish Gunnar Nelson, and I think Kevin Holland will prove that he's better at welterweight. He is better at welterweight. It's just a fact of the matter, man. We don't like Kevin Holland at 185. It's just not the way to go. He knows he can cut to 170. He just doesn't want to. It's just the motivation is not there. It's depressing, man. I don't want to pick Kevin Holland, but I'm gonna pick Kevin Holland because I don't want to trust Gunnar Nelson, and I think Kevin Holland at 170 is his best form, but he is coming off of back-to-back losses. Gunnar Nelson as well, though he hasn't fought in a minute. So this one's really close for me, man. This one's gonna be. I wouldn't bet on this fight. I would not bet on this fight, but I'm gonna go Kevin Holland to get it done by KO, man. I think he's gonna finish Gunnar Nelson in round 1 or round 2. I think it's gonna be really close right off the get-go, back and forth, and Kevin Holland will just land a nice shot, drop Gunnar Nelson, finish him on the ground, and he'll have some crazy call out on the mic afterwards. But I'm gonna go Kevin Holland by KO, man. Moving on though to the co-main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg. This is a good fight. Jan has not fought in a minute. I really want Jan Blachowicz to win this fight, but it's been such a long time since he's fought. He's 42 years old. It's tough. But people forget who Jan Blachowicz is, man. This guy's a dog. He is a dog. He can always bring it. Even at 42 years old, he still has a potential to win this fight. But I am going to go with Carlos Ulberg. I'm sorry, Jan. I am going to go Carlos Ulberg to get this one done. But I don't think he'll finish Jan. I don't think Jan will finish Ulberg. I think this will be a decision. I'm going to go Carlos Ulberg by decision, man. 29-28. I think it'll be close. But I just trust that Carlos Ulberg is going to be the faster fighter, bouncing around, popping jabs, in and out, circling around, moving around. He did it perfectly against Volkan Ozdemir, who's a power puncher. And Volkan punches almost harder than Jan Blachowicz, man. So I think Carlos Ulberg's going to have the perfect game plan to just bounce around, pop that jab, and just score the unanimous decision. And Carlos is a great prospect, man. He's not a super crazy finisher, but he's still a good prospect, very well-rounded. And I think his striking will be better than Jan Blachowicz, who hasn't fought in a while, man. It's just activity as well is a huge thing, right? Just like the fight before Kevin Holland versus what's his name versus Gunnar Nelson. Man, the activity. Kevin Holland's more active, even though he's on a losing streak. He's just more active. The activity plays a huge part into it. So I'm gonna go Carlos Ulberg by unanimous decision. I do hope Jan wins, but I just don't see it happening, man. We move on though to the main event. I'm excited for this main event. Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Honestly, I kind of prefer this one than Leon Edwards versus JDM. Honestly, Sean Brady does deserve a shot up in the rankings. He's good. He's lost to Bilal. People clown him for getting knocked out by Bilal, but Bilal is the champ. He will most likely beat JDM. All right, this is Sean Brady deserves this shot. Okay, and Leon Edwards needs to redeem himself, and he's fighting a wrestler in Sean Brady. This is a tough fight for Leon Edwards. Very tough fight for Leon Edwards, but it's gonna be close. This is gonna be very close. You know, Leon Edwards is obviously getting up there in age. Sean Brady's alive, live. He's a fresh fighter. He's a fresh fighter. He's got great finishing potential. His ground game is elite. I think Sean Brady has the second best wrestling in welterweight after Bilal, man. But you know, we didn't even see wrestling in that fight. You know, Sean Brady tried a couple takedowns, didn't really work, gave up on it, and they striked for the entire match because the wrestling canceled out kind of. So in this, Sean Brady's wrestling is going to be so much better than Leon Edwards. I think he's going to gas Leon Edwards out. Just go for literally the Bilal game plan. I'm sorry, I just see this one playing out the exact same way as the Bilal Leon Edwards fight. And I do hope Leon Edwards can get some reversals, flip Sean Brady over, you know, stop some of those takedowns. And I think on the feet, Leon Edwards is obviously going to be the better striker. But volume is going to be on Sean Brady's side. Sean Brady just had a beautiful fight against Gilbert Burns, played it perfectly. He fought that fight perfectly. Leon Edwards just showed how many holes he has in his game when he fought Bilal. And Bilal has the same kind of wrestling as Sean Brady. And Sean Brady's volume on the feet is a lot more. He's implicated more leg kicks, more well-rounded now, especially after that fight against Gilbert Burns. That was a really, really, really high-level fight by Sean Brady. You know, he mixed it up perfectly, got the takedowns, was able to do exactly what he wanted, where he wanted to. And I think he'll do the same thing against Leon Edwards. I do think Leon will catch Sean Brady at one point. But Sean Brady, I do trust that he will just keep plot armoring forward, man, getting the takedowns, you know, just tiring out Leon Edwards until you get into that fourth and fifth round, where I genuinely think Sean Brady's conditioning will be better. He struggled a bit in the Burns fight. He was getting a bit tired, but he just kept pushing forward. This is a guy that digs really deep. Sean Brady digs really deep to get that win, and I think he's going to do that against Leon Edwards, who is a bit he quit against Bilal, man. In his last fight, he quit. He did. You know, he could have pushed forward a bit more, and he just let Bilal get him on the fence, get those takedowns. I think he's going to do the same thing with Sean Brady. So I'm going to go Sean Brady by unanimous decision, you know, 49-48 unanimous decision, Sean Brady, boys. But that is the entire card breakdown. Those are my quick picks, my quick predictions. If you guys did enjoy the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop your comments down below. What people you guys think are going to win this? Who you guys think is going to win the main fight, man? It's going to be close. I think it'll be very close, but I'm going to side Sean Brady. But without further ado, boys, I will catch you guys in the next one. See you.